Welcome back to another episode of Diecast Resurrections 3D Quarter. I'll be your host, Andy. Today we will be creating replacement parts for this big old Chevy Snowplow from Matchbox. I don't know about you guys, but it was diecast models like this little Snowplow and other construction toys that were my favorite as a kid, so this one caught my eye immediately. My thanks goes out to John for donating this lovely piece of machinery. We'll be going through the process of building a new sanding bucket and front plow. These would be the first things to break off from stepping on them, of course. Now I'm hoping to recreate this as a 1-1 replica, but with better detail, of course, as is tradition. Pitter patter, let's get at her. Now, like with most things, I'll start by creating the truck so we could fit the model in afterwards to make sure everything lines up. Now that that's done, I'm going to start modeling the sand spreader. Since this is probably going to be the easier of the two, I think. And when it comes to Tinkercad, you gotta kind of start with a big block and then cut your way down and sculpt it. So I'm going to get the basic shape of the outside and then gradually start adding the detail later. Now, because with Tinkercad you can only set one point of reference for your measurements, you can move it to wherever you want, but if you want to get something in between something or make something exact, you're going to have to do what I do and actually create a shape that's the exact size of something you want to get away from or get between, and then use those as your measurement tools, and then I can put the cutter right in the middle, if that makes sense. Basically, it's getting around the limitations of Tinkercad. A few angled cuts, it's actually starting to take shape. Alright, now that the basic design is done, I'm actually going to create a copy of it and create an eraser tool to hollow it out. So this is kind of a process I use for a lot of different hollowing methods. So what you do is you take your main design and then visualize it shrunk to the wall width you want, but it's going to lose something on an open end, right? So the top is going to shrink down, so you got to add a thicker part to the top, so that's what we're going to do. And here you can see I used the wall shapes to get the exact thick walls I wanted, and using them as measurement guides when I get the hollower tool in here. Again, if that makes sense. And just like that, we got a nice hollowed out sand spreader. Alright, now we got to add some detail. We'll start with the metal supports on the spreader. Alright, those are looking pretty good space-wise. Now we just got to cut the angles on them. Now the way these are, they have two different angles. So one's a sharper angle and one's just a tapered angle that goes into the actual back of the truck. So in order to make this curve, I think if we use cylinders with less polygons on the outside, it actually might work. Just like that. Woo! Actually, it looks better than I thought it would. Alright, create the angled beams in the back. This should be pretty simple. Alright, just cut them. Good. Now using the stairs prim that's on Tinkercad, I should be able to get the exact look that was in the original. Alright, yeah, the original looks something like this, except what I want to do is actually add an auger to this. It's going to add a lot more detail and be pretty cool. Now there's actually a spiral tool prim in Tinkercad that has a lot of different settings that you can play with, and it's going to wind up being pretty good for this one. I'm just going to make it thick and flat so it'll print nice. There, something simple like that just adds so much more detail. Alright, just model the spreader real quick in the back. That is also the clip that holds it into the truck. We're pretty much done here. Just need to add the clip hole that goes into the front of the box to hold it in. So I'm going to have to cut away a little bit of the inside and then model a little box around it so it contains the pin and has a little clip as well. Now upon trying to get everything to fit and look good, it actually started cutting away weird, and what I ended up doing is hollowing out the base of it a bit more and then dropping the auger into the hole, which actually looks even better than the original design, and will wind up actually housing the clip just perfectly so it won't cut into the auger halfway down. That looks like it might be finished. Let's test fit it with our test truck. Now see here, this is exactly the reason I like to have a test fit truck, like I kind of pre-model, because as soon as we put it in here, you can see that the side walls are going to be digging into the side of the bed, so we're going to have to cut those down a little bit. Well, that's just dang gorgeous. Alright, now for the bucket. I have a feeling this one's going to be the harder of the two just because of the weird angles. Now when you're doing anything cylindrical in Tinkercad, it's one of the harder things to do because if you want to get some different curves that kind of go cone shape on one side but have an oblong shape on the other like this bucket does, it is almost impossible to do, and you gotta like use multiple different cutting methods, so it's going to be difficult, but I think we can do it. I'm going to start with the extrusion prim, which is part of their moldable prim department kind of deals, and will allow me to get the basic oblong shape of the bucket, and then we'll cut it from there. You can see I'm using shapes of different arches and then angling them down to cut. Did a lot of trial and error to get this one going, but I think we'll just kind of skip ahead to the good stuff. And after much trial and error and many cuts, we have our basic prim for our bucket. We're just going to grab some thin cylinders, use them as the metal bands that encompass the bucket. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now this is just a part of the process to create an eraser of sorts to get the inside of the bucket removed, which actually wound up being a little bit more difficult than I thought it would. Alright, now to trim down the outside so it matches the conformity of the bucket, which is going to be interesting in itself. Alright, here goes nothing. And that's the eraser. Hopefully it works. Perfect. And a little bit of cleanup here and there. Alright, we're just going to model the little snap connector that actually puts it onto the truck. Alright, hopefully that works. It's the exact same measurement, so it should. Well, let's get these both through Cura and see what they look like and go from there. Now for the bucket, I was going to do a full-blown raft with supports on the inside. I ended up printing it just freestanding right on the bed, and it actually worked. I ended up not even chancing it. I went with full-blown raft and support system for printing the bucket. Alright, let's go to the printer. They both came out looking great. It's models like this one that the resin printer witchcraft will come in handy, but the detail one can achieve with an FDM printer still amazes me. Out with the boring one and in with the new and improved. Love the look of that auger in the back. One thing of note is, the clip I made for the front of the sand spreader was a bit too thin and broke off, so by the time it's up on Thingiverse, it'll be fixed. Still holds in place pretty well without the clip, less wobbly than the original. Now if anyone has an idea of something they want to see modeled on the show, leave a comment down below. And like always, I hope you enjoyed the finished design. Anyone who wants to print the items from the channel and more, feel free to check out our official Thingiverse page, Diecast R 3D. There's a link in the description below. Austin's next creation will be up soon, but feel free to check out some of our other restorations and custom diecast builds, as well as more 3D Corner episodes like this one. Have an amazing weekend, everyone, and a happy 4th of July this Sunday to all my American friends down south. Cheers, everyone! Gonna have to change this to Jimmy's Plowing. Call 1-800-JIM-PLOW now.